So how much can I get for a trade? Well, I don't think bananas are worth what you think they're worth. If shopping for a new car drives you bananas, head to Community Auto Group in Mason City. We have the best selection of new and pre-owned vehicles. And you know with Community, you're getting a straightforward deal from a straightforward dealer. I'd like to buy this car. No? Seriously? Next time I'll skip the monkey business and go to Community Auto Group.
Get out there to the community as to what we're currently thinking and doing on how we're going to try to do our research and investigation on how we might move forward. We've heard pretty distinctly and clearly from several of the city council people that their desire is that the commission, the Mason City Human Rights Commission, remain intact as a commission body. So having heard that and trying to act upon their wishes that we remain intact, it's our challenge to take that $15,000 that has been allocated from the city's budget for the next fiscal year and try to see how we can make that work in maintaining a commission here that still remains a voice for the public on human rights challenges and concerns. So,
excuse me, Pete.
Sure.
I'd like to congratulate you on both interviews. I saw the KMT interview last night on the news, and I read John's article this morning, and I thought you stated the commission's position very well.
Push it this way, you're not going to be able to pick that up.
Okay, thank you very much. I appreciate that. Because I and the staff have been working hard the last week to do as much as we can to get a good bit of information to you today so that we can discuss. And so we have to review our complaint process and formulate a transition plan. And so given what Commissioner McNamara just said, that was kind of the reason for the interviews yesterday, and I want to commend Lionel. He received the calls from both the Globe Gazette and KIMT, and I happened to be in the office working with him on the response from the council action the night before, and he said, Dean, I think this isn't about me and losing a job. This is about how we move forward for the best of the community. And so I'd rather you be the spokesperson with the media so that it doesn't look as if I'm, out here whining about losing my job. So I think that takes a big man to do that, Lionel, and I, on behalf of the commission, want to thank you for taking that stance. I think that was helpful to the whole process. So just by way of historical update, then Cam Sargent, when he realized he wasn't going to have the time and energy to do a lot of the research and work that was necessary to figure out how we move forward, he asked Colleen Devine and I Commissioner Devine and I to begin doing some research and calls and investigation as to how we can work with the Iowa Civil Rights Commission and how some of the other agencies have been operating so that we know kind of where we're going and what we can do. So we're in the middle of that. We've got some information, and that's why we brought some of the papers that we did here today for you to see this sample cooperative agreement from the Iowa Civil Rights Commission, and we can talk about that here later as we go. So number 3, Director Foster has, I think, some comments that I think will be helpful to our body today as we start this discussion on the duties, differences between the Human Rights Commission and the Mason City Housing Authority. So, Lionel, you want to go ahead and give us your
there was
background on that?
Right. There was some misleading information that's been out there concerning the Mason City Housing Authority to the extent that they can handle fair housing complaints. The only way any agency can handle discrimination complaints is if they have the legal authority to do so. The Mason City Housing Authority doesn't have the legal authority to process fair housing complaints. All they can do, if they receive a complaint from one of their people, in other words, one of their Section 8 recipients, they can turn the matter over to a fair housing enforcement agency. Now, in reality, because they are governed by the Department of Housing and Urban Development, they are required to make sure that none of their landlords engage in housing discrimination. If they find out a landlord engages in housing discrimination, they are required to turn that information over to what we call a FAP, which we are, or to HUD, either in Kansas City, or they can turn it over to the Iowa Civil Rights Commission. But to suggest that they can process complaints is totally erroneous. They can't do that. Now, we, through the time that we've been processing fair housing complaints, have interacted with the Mason City Housing folks and on issues dealing with fair housing. They know full well that they can't process complaints. Again, they can refer those complaints to somebody else. And I think Kathy Gaines can affirm that because she deals with them as well. The other issue that raises is what happens to the people who are not Section 8 housing assistance individuals. Because if I am a private citizen out here who doesn't receive Section 8 housing assistance and I've got a housing discrimination complaint, why would I go talk to them? I'm not a recipient of subsidized housing. Why would I go talk to them? So that will have a chilling effect on anyone who's outside of their system. The other issue I've got with it is that what do they do with the information when they receive it? If someone complains about my landlord is treating me badly and I think it's because of my gender or because I've got kids or because of my race, what are they doing with that information? You know, we are obligated, or at least the commission is obligated, to keep that information confidential. And you can't go out and spread it throughout the community. So that's a concern. And so to think that that's an avenue to help redress or address the fair housing part of your ordinance, I think should not even be considered. You can bring them in to talk to them about, hey, send us the information and we'll get it off, as we've been doing for the last 25 years or whatever it's been. But as far as turning over your authority to them to investigate complaints, I don't think is going to happen, number one. Number two, I don't think it would be legal for you to do that because your ordinance requires you to accept complaints and to process complaints and to investigate complaints. They don't have an ordinance that says that they're supposed to do that.
I have a question.
Sure.
Did you say something about being concerned about their confidentiality over there?
Right.
Did I understand that? Okay.
Right. Yes.
So you don't believe that when they do things, they're concerned about confidentiality?
No, that's not what I said. That's not what I said.
Okay.
What I said is that we, this commission, are under statute to not disclose the filing of a complaint. That's my issue. Okay. Now they don't have any similar. First of all, they don't have a statute that says they're prohibited from doing it. They may have in their HUD guidelines, and I think there are some that says they can't divulge certain sorts of personal information about their clients to prospective landlords or to the community at large. But I'm talking about strictly dealing with housing investigation. You know, you can always say, hey, you know, don't do it, but what happens if they do, or if it happens? So that's my issue on the confidentiality.
So I guess I'd like to hear from your the commissioners as to how we disseminate information in that regard in itself, because there is the feeling I'm getting that the city council has stated or believes that that there's the duplication of process, that the housing enforcement can take place through the housing authority. Am I wrong on that, or is
No,
that
that's my understanding. That's what's been batted around out there. Yeah. And one other point, then I'll be quiet here. The housing group receives their funds from HUD. They receive vouchers, and they disseminate those vouchers to qualified applicants. they have to team up with landlords in the community in order to get those vouchers out there and working. Now, I would question whether they would want to take on fair housing because you're then in competition or you're in conflict with your landlord. You're saying to the landlords out there, we're not going to let you guys discriminate against these applicants, which they can. Landlords can discriminate against Section 8 housing applicants. There's no law says they can't do it. Okay? So you got, on the one hand, the landlords that they have to work with, and on the other hand, you may have complainants out there that want to file. How are they going to handle that? And I would suggest that in our experience with them, they're going to stay away from it.
Any thoughts?
I don't want to do more than my share of talking here, but I have a thought. I think that probably no one around this table, that maybe Lionel would know the answer to any of that question needs, but I'm sure that places like Fort Dodge and Burlington, who have a low budget on human rights, also have housing complaints, so I think we can use their template for handling housing complaints. That would seem to be the simple answer to me. They have the same issues we do.
Well, Brian had the wealth of information on that and what he had done. What did you find out
Their website
on
is excellent, and I believe her name is Jamie Anderson, who is in human resources there, spends 25% of her time basically doing the intake process for housing issues and for employment issues, only for the city of Fort Dodge. She does do intake for the commission to deal with, Fort Dodge Human Rights Commission to deal with. She does do intake for all of Webster County, but all Webster County, in other words, outside the city limits, are referred to Iowa after the intake.
per this work share agreement?
Yes. And that's just very much in brief, but their website does give a lot of detailed information.
So the human resources person for the city of Fort Dodge does intake for both housing and employment for the city to refer to the commissioners to handle, is that what I understood? And then
They
we're all.
actually refer all HUD cases to the state and
To the
handle
state,
only
okay.
EEO cases.
Okay, so what was the differentiation for Webster? Just that she does an intake for Webster County as well?
Right, the
Oh.
commission does not deal with those are sent to the state.
Could I explain the history of Fort Dodge and Webster County? They were the first county-city joint venture in the state of Iowa, and they were that way for a number of years until this commission got tied up with the county under a 28E agreement. I don't remember exactly what year it was, but the county and the city officials apparently had some falling out about who's going to fund whom, and so they had a director and they had staff. And so when the county separated the funding from the city, from the organization, from the Webster County Human Rights Commission, then they separated and they came up with this sort of an arrangement.
Okay. Since you're the city administrator, on what the housing authority can or cannot do, given what we just
I think
discussed.
it's accurate. I think what the director just said is accurate based on my knowledge. They refer their own cases regarding Section 8 to usually Kansas City when they have an issue. That's my understanding. And so, yeah, and they're not set up to hear cases. He's right. That's my understanding.
Okay. So I think we've got a lot of work to do there yet. Can we move on to the next item at the moment? Which is the plan regarding Amy's position for ongoing intake ability. Lionel, you and I have had a pretty extensive discussion on that over the last couple of days, so you want to go ahead and give your thoughts?
Sure. There will be some HUD and EOC money that will be left as of July the 1st. There will be enough money there that would pay Amy's salary for another year. And what I had talked with Amy about and what vice chair's talked with Amy about is that she could, I was gonna say man, and that's the wrong term. She could administer the office and continue to do what she does now. She has a thorough knowledge of how to take in cases, how to take complaints in, how to put them together and do whatever the commission eventually decides they want to do with those cases. And that would probably be, in my estimation, the most fluid way of transitioning from where we are now until next year. And then there's going to be some other issues I think that the vice chair is going to raise as well, or some other comments she's going to make as well. But there is enough money, or will be enough money there for her to do that, and you won't have to go out and farm it out to somebody else to come in and sit there and who doesn't have any knowledge at all about intake. And that's the key. That's the key. You have to know what it is that you're talking about when a person comes in and says, I want to file a complaint. You have to understand what their circumstances are, what does or doesn't comply with the law and what they tell you, and otherwise you're just sitting there twiddling your thumbs and you're writing stuff up and it may not even be a valid case. And one of the things I've always done, and I say this not to blow my own horn, I don't want to put anybody to the task, in particular a respondent, of defending themselves against something that I know full well we have no jurisdiction of. Okay. And so that's what you have to have someone there to do, and that's what Amy has been trained to do and has all the knowledge. She has as much knowledge as I do.
So I think that, this is one of our most key aspects of how we move forward. As I said earlier, in talking with the mayor yesterday and in talking with several of the city council people, they've stated they want this commission to still, function. That just because they've cut the funding, they don't want it to see it completely dissolve and go away. So I'm taking that as a personal challenge, and I hope that maybe you all will jump on the bandwagon here with me and join in saying, okay, if that's the case, that we're going to try to move forward in some fashion, let's at least retain the brains of and experience of what we've had as far as intake, and that we do what we can. And if Lionel has been able to find a way with the EEOC and HUD monies to at least retain her for the coming fiscal year, I would think
I agree
that is
with
what
this,
we ought to consider.
but I'm not talking for you, I'm just bringing this out for myself, okay? You're asking her to go a year to work here,
Right.
when she has to think about her future.
Right.
And if another job opportunity comes up, I wouldn't hold it against her to say, I'm sorry, I have to leave. So you have to think about that too,
Right.
Because I would never ask somebody to take a year out of their life and hang on to something when another opportunity could come and she could.
No, I agree, and I think that's good to state that. Anytime you offer somebody a position, if something better comes along, we know we're gonna lose that person, and that's that. But the only other thing to do is say goodbye, Amy. We're folding up completely and going home, or we say goodbye, Amy. You haven't done a good job. We're going to hire a part-time person in your place. So I don't see those two options as being really where we ought to go.
Well, I just know personally myself, if another opportunity came up, I wouldn't think that you bailed ship. You know what I mean? You got to do what's best for you and your family.
And so, yeah, go ahead.
Well, and of course, that's natural, and I'll express what I talked to Dean about yesterday. The city, right now, there are no open positions that we could use where we could put Amy into. I don't have any open positions right now. I know there are people that may retire within the next year, may not. Well, it's never known for sure. We have some positions that are 30-hour positions that at some point maybe could be used to do the intake. Obviously they need training. They don't have the training that Amy has. But in my opinion, that in that year, if at some point during that year, that if one of those positions comes open, Amy's able to apply, we do internal first. When we do hiring, we do internal hiring first. And potentially would work out that she could be hired for that position, and that position could do what the other things it used to do plus the intake. And that's something that we've been considering as a potential option. And unfortunately, I can't guarantee anything relative to, it depends on when people retire or they might take another job and those types of things. But I want to let you know that is what we're, what I'm willing to consider.
Thank you, Administrator Trout. Yeah, Administrator Trout and I had this conversation just yesterday, and I was really encouraged that for his part in the city that they would try to do what we as a commission maybe feel is in the best interest of the community and the commission in moving forward with Amy, who has such a wealth of experience in working with the commission. So any further discussion on that? Is there any action we want to take today on that item? Or do you want to defer taking action on that to the special meeting we may be having soon?
I would just make a recommendation that you defer until the full commission is here, so everybody else has a say-so in it. After to do it now without them being here to voice their opinion, I would just respectfully submit that you may want to wait till you get a full commission to vote on it.
Is
I
a lot of
agree with
heads
that.
nodding?
I think
Commissioner?
it's great to have all of this knowledge in front of us, but I believe that the full commission should be here to hear all of it and probably vote on this.
I see a lot of heads nodding. Commissioner Palmer,
Yeah, all
Which
makes
way?
sense to me.
which way is your head going?
And I'd like to mention something too. I think that bears on this. We had a hard time getting a quorum today. We have interviewed people to fill those empty seats, and we've not taken any action on that. I think it's important to get that process underway.
That's why I
so we
said
can-
earlier, that's good. First
Yeah,
thing on the next.
because I guess, golly, I can't imagine that any of the commissioners who are not here would disagree with this. Personally, it makes perfect sense to me. So I don't know that there's a point in waiting till we have more people to nod their head yes. I think yes is the answer. So whatever you want to do, Mr. Chairman.
I would agree with that because we're only missing Cam, and we know he's going to be out of commission, no pun intended, for a few weeks. And the only other commissioner we're missing is Commissioner Devine.
Karen.
And Karen, she's out of town. So with the number of friends of the commission we have here and having a quorum, I guess I would entertain that we give Amy at least the stability of knowing that we're going to do everything in our efforts along with Administrator Trout's statement that he made, that the combination of our efforts as a commission and Administrator Trout's ability, however that works out, that we're going to do our best to retain Amy for the next fiscal year, so that she at least has that floor under her of knowing that she's got some stability.
I would make that motion.
For the coming year. Okay, so moved by Commissioner McNamara. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Huesman. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimously. Okay. That takes us to the work share agreement that I brought, and I don't think we're far enough along to take any action on this today, but by way of information, I'd like for you to quickly, maybe let's just take a minute or two for you to scan through it, and then let's talk about this a bit.
I was able to scan it before the meeting. I got here a little earlier. So I do have a question.
Let's let everybody else look at it for just a couple minutes, and then we'll let you. I guess, did we forward this email trail to the commissioners from Beth Townsend? So Lionel and I have started some communication with her as well. I just want to preface before the questions that it needs to be understood that the Mason City Human Rights Commission would no longer be doing any fact-finding. And the commissioners, ourselves around this table, would not be doing any fact-finding once we would enter into the work-share agreement with the Iowa Civil Rights Commission. The other thing that I'll just quickly preface your questions by saying that, you know, things aren't always what they seem. And in all of my discussions with Councilman Kuhn, on the surface it sounded like, oh wow, you know, this is the perfect solution to sign up with the Iowa Civil Rights Commission, sign the work-share agreement, and life will be beautiful. But after we have our questions, Lionel, I think, has some background that was kind of enlightening to me about how there is some danger on the way the community would be served by just saying we're passing everything off to the Iowa Civil Rights Commission. So I think we need to know where some of the pitfalls are, and I think Lionel can put those out as kind of here's what we need to watch out for perspective. But with that, let's go with Councilman McNamara's question first.
My questions are primarily surrounding the dates in this document. Like under 1B, it's from July 1st, 2012 to June 30th, 2013. And then
This is for sample purposes as the previous fiscal year. So
Okay.
if we were to enter into agreement, it would be for the coming fiscal year, which those dates would move to 2014.
And then I assume under 7 that those dates that's a typo for the reporting.
Yeah,
July
well,
1st.
same thing, because this is from last year's form.
Okay. And based on these quarterly reports, which is how the commission is reimbursed, would that then ultimately would be added to Amy's job responsibilities?
Well, what Lionel, as I understand, you can correct me, Lionel, if I'm wrong, but what Lionel is working with Beth Townsend on, he's sent in a query to her asking if we have Amy doing intake, if there's ability for them to pay more than the $100 if she's doing some of the additional work that they normally do when they pay the $100 per case. Because Lionel tells me that they get $650 for each case they process at the Iowa Civil Rights Commission. And so what they're doing is, for us referring to them, so that they can collect $650, they're giving us $100 to make that referral to them. Okay, Councilman Palmer. Councilman.
Well, I was
Commissioner
just trying
Palmer.
to, follow the money here too, Dean. So we would be funded by the city $15,000. And if we're able to do intake with that $15,000, we would receive $100 for every case that we intake. Is that, am I reading that right?
Well, yeah, right, that we refer on to the Iowa Civil
Okay.
Rights Commission.
Okay,
Under
so
this agreement.
let's say we use our ratio of 20 people walking in the door and we take one case. So we really have to review 20 cases, and then if we refer one, we get $100 back.
Yeah.
Is that the way that would work?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. Then my other question is, if we decided that we felt for whatever reason that we didn't want to work on this work share agreement with the Iowa Civil Rights Commission, do we need to think about what our alternative would be? I mean, I don't know that we have an alternative, do we? I mean, what is the alternative? I'm not seeing it.
Well, yeah, that's why we're here today. I don't have a recommendation for that.
Yeah, I mean, with the budget that we have, you just said we wouldn't be doing our own fact finding.
Right.
So what other choices do we have?
In the conversations I've had with Director Foster yesterday, Lionel, you want to explain, you thought probably that this is our best way to move forward given where we're at, right?
Well,
maybe this is the point for you to talk about the downside, so we
Yeah,
can,
well, yeah, here's the.
so we can weigh that.
If we're talking about downside, it means that if you sign that agreement, you have no more functionality in the system. That's it. Everything goes to the Iowa Civil Rights Commission. Let me give you a hypothetical. Let's say Amy takes the case, then she types them up, sends them down to the Iowa Civil Rights Commission. They log all the cases in, they do all the investigation, everything else. And incidentally, we've had these agreements with them for years. But the agreements we've had is any case outside of Saragota County, then we would help them file with the state. The state would then send us, I think it was $100, isn't it, Amy?
I think the last time it was 75. so-
75, okay. So if we brought in, 10, 15, 20 cases outside of Saragota County, and they came here, and this is the other thing, I won't keep digressing here, but all this hoopla about we're handling cases outside of Saragota County, yeah, we do, because the Iowa Civil Rights Commission had an agreement with us that if someone came to here and said, I want to file a complaint, and we said it belongs to the Iowa Civil Rights Commission, we'd type it up, send it down, they'd pay us for it. Okay, so if you sign the agreement, then that means you don't do anything. You don't have any authority to do anything except Amy takes in the case, types it up, the person signs it, and you send it to the Iowa Civil Rights Commission. At some point, probably on a quarterly basis, because that's pretty much what they do, they'll send you a statement up saying, if you sent us 25 cases, so we're going to send you $2,500. As far as you're voting on any of the cases for litigation, for anything else, you lose all that authority.
So what do we do? I mean, then what are we doing here?
Well,
Yeah,
that's
I mean,
It's a resume item.
what I said.
because it's like, I mean, it's not that I'm this great, important person, but I value my time. I have major issues I'm dealing with, and if it means what I do here means nothing, I have better things to do with my time. You know what I mean?
Like, I'll share this with you, and some folks think I'm not telling the truth, and I don't care. Marshalltown went through the same thing, and the Marshalltown Human Rights Commission now, I don't even know if they function. They had a staff, they had a director, and the city council members came in, were angry with them because of their intakes of cases, so they cut the power away from them, and the stuff goes to the state. So, that's the functionality that you won't have. You can come here every month and sit down and chat about whatever it is you want to chat about, and I'm not being demean when I say that, but if you don't know what the cases are, except that they're going to the Iowa Civil Rights Commission, and
There's
you...
no reason to be here.
There is no reason to be here.
Exactly.
And this is what this all comes down to. I
There would
mean,
probably be maybe quarterly meetings by
Yeah.
the commission for oversight of the remaining staff, and to review the cases that were handled via intake and sent on down to.
But because of what is happening, we have to have this in front of us to make a decision whether or not this is the avenue that we want to take.
Well,
Is this just a resume?
The commission is still enforced by
But,
ordinance.
I mean, there will be no function to us.
yeah.
We won't be doing anything.
Being extremely limited.
But the other side of that is you won't have any authority to do, well, let me say it this way, you won't have any resource to do anything else. You won't be able to investigate complaints. Let's say Amy takes them in and she does what she's doing now. You won't have the staff here. You won't have a special individual like we had in the past, like Elena and Melissa, to set up the whole fact-finding process for you so that you can sit the folks down and take the information from them. You won't have that. And so then it's up to getting two of you together, and I don't know how you're going to handle that, but let's say two of you get together and you're going to fact find a case, who then is going to write up the decision for that case?
Yeah.
Okay, I don't think anybody, and I'm not being demeaning, I don't think anyone here can write up a decision on a case to make it satisfactory in case someone wants to appeal it or go somewhere with it.
I have a question back up a little bit. When you said that, like if somebody outside the county came in and then you referred them, that we got paid for that.
Right.
Well, why is it at the city council meetings it was always brought up that all these people come in and we're not getting money for that?
Well, so I said it's missing.
Why wasn't it ever brought out that we did?
Well, we did. We notified the council.
But it was never brought out in public.
Well, no, but
I mean, I've never once heard in a public meeting, and I've been to a lot of them, where they ever said that we got reimbursed for that money. I always heard, why are we providing this service and not getting the money? And here,
The city council was informed that we would have annual budget meetings, and they were informed.
but it was never brought out to the public, and the public is what came out that to say.
They're public meetings.
Yeah, I know, but I mean, when they were talking about discussions with, human rights or commission and what we do, never once did they ever bring out, well, they get reimbursed for that when they're talking about it. Yeah, it may be brought, talking back and forth or whatever, but it was always made sure that they knew that we were bringing cases in, but it wasn't so much getting out there that we were getting paid for that.
We got paid a minimum amount of
Mhm.
money.
Well,
Yeah.
Let me say this, though. I can give as much information that comes into me to anyone who wants it, if they don't believe it, they're not gonna believe it.
Yeah.
If they don't want to accept it, they're not gonna accept it. So, I've said this, I even said it with my kids, nobody ever believes me. When I say
Mhm.
something, nobody ever believes me, so.
Yeah,
And I put up with that for 20-some years with my kids, they still don't believe me.
I know.
Commissioner McNamara, can you state what you found out about the Fort Dodge thing? Because what I thought I heard from your report, what I read of it, that in Fort Dodge, there's budgeted monies in the city there that pays 2 attorneys that does some handling of cases. What do you know about that?
You didn't hear that from me.
No?
No. Might have been Alex, maybe, I don't know.
Maybe Alex.
But,
I don't think that's true. I don't think they process them. They forward those cases to the Iowa Civil Rights.
but my understanding from my conversation was with the human resources person that handles HRC for them, is that they are still handling the EEO cases in Fort Dodge, and they're only sending HUD cases to Des Moines. I'm going from memory.
Who does the
This is a
EEOC
month ago.
cases?
The Human Rights Commission of Fort Dodge.
And how's that financed? I mean, who pays for it? For them to do all the work?
They get a reimbursement apparently for every case that they handle right in Fort Dodge,
Who do they get reversed from?
from the state.
From the state?
What's the fact findings?
I assume, based on my conversation with her, that it was the Human Rights Commission in Fort Dodge. But honestly, I think, is it going to be possible for you and Commissioner Devine to actually visit Fort Dodge, or not? It doesn't have to be Fort Dodge.
possibly, yeah.
It could be any other city that's
Right.
doing the work share.
Well, I've suggested to the vice chair that you do a comprehensive study. You contact all, not the big cities, because they already have their thing going, but the communities that, since we want to compare population size, that all the other 21, I think there's 24, and I think there's 21 or so in the smaller areas, find out exactly what they're doing, how do they handle cases, and I suspect by and large you're going to find out those cases are going to the Iowa Civil Rights Commission, by and large.
And not to open up and say, because I'm not officially anything at this point, it was our
You're a
understanding.
citizen of Mason.
Thank
Yes,
you.
you are. You're a citizen.
For every training that we've attended, whether it's national, right, Amy, or statewide, or regional, it is said Mason City is the only commission who the commissioners do the fact findings. And there are other groups from the state of Iowa there, and they've never said, oh no, we do them. It's never been brought up. So we do need to check that out and find out, because then they changed what they were doing in the past.
But if you do fact findings, who types them up, who sends them off? If Amy's not here, Lionel's not here, who does it? I mean, if you do fact findings, if you have them here, and we're sitting here and we do all this, and when we leave, we give it to Amy, and she takes care of it.
I don't think there will be jurisdiction to do them here. There will be intake,
Mm-hmm.
and they'll be processed through the state.
Right.
she'll send a letter or paper down there. There will be no fact findings there, because there won't be jurisdiction.
And here again, then what do we do here? What are we here for?
Well, when I talked to the vice chair about this, in the interest of complaining parties, I would not want to see someone come in to file a complaint and that complaint be mishandled, which would subject the commission to a real problem. As I continue to talk about the Waterloo case, even though it's an unregistered, unfiled case in the legal context, the judge has made a decision that under your ordinance, the person has a right to file and get due process.
There was one in Cedar Rapids too, wasn't there?
No, it's just in Waterloo. So that's something you have to take into consideration. So in order to avoid that sort of circumstance in the future, it's probably best you take a look at what the Iowa Civil Rights Commission is going to offer. Even though you won't have a whole lot of say so, that to me is the safest thing to do as far as complaints are concerned.
I wonder if it would be possible to get someone who is familiar with just how the work share works and answering a lot of these questions to come up from the Iowa Human Rights Commission and talk to us. I think that would be very helpful, that it's okay for you and Colleen to go down but then that isn't going to help the rest of us understand how things work.
Maybe see if we can get Beth Townsend to come up.
I could see if she'll come up here.
Yeah, or somebody, maybe she has people that work for her that would have
Right.
the answers that we're not having to do.
Okay, we'll investigate that.
Anybody except Don Grove.
Yeah, we'll investigate that and see if we can get somebody up. That's a good suggestion, Commissioner Palmer. Okay, so let's move on so we can get this in before Jack or anybody has to leave. And that's number 6 on the discussion guide, which was Director Foster has some comments about one of the very important things we have to address and properly handle is the pending cases. So, Lionel, would you give a little overview on the
Right,
60
yeah,
cases?
I've contacted, because the majority, all the housing cases are pretty well satisfied. They're done, most of it. It's the employment cases, I think there's 60-some or so left. I've got a question into EEOC, how can we handle those 60 cases, because as of June 30th, I won't be here, and I would not want to put that burden on. I mean, we're going to be working on closing as many as we possibly can during that time. And I wouldn't want to put that burden on Amy to have to sit here and go through those cases and try and write decisions. She's done a wonderful job doing it now, but that's a lot. That's a lot. So as soon as I hear back from EEOC on what their thinking is, because this commission has a contract with the EEOC, not with Iowa Civil Rights, EEOC, and they expect us to do what they want us to do. So as soon as I hear back, I'll let you know exactly what the thinking is. But again, Amy and I will be working diligently on getting these other cases to some conclusion with a decision on it.
One thing I've asked Director Foster to think about, and I would like to have happen before, hopefully before June 30th, is I think it's really an amazing, phenomenal career that Lionel has had in over 40 years now with the Human Rights Commission. And I would like for him to be able to compile for us some kind of a narrative and highlights of what have been the highlights of the Human Rights Commission in Mason City, Iowa over his 40 years here with the commission. And in part, I think if we're going to be making a huge transition to whatever our future is, whether it's us eventually disbanding and having a staff person in the city, whether it be Amy or somebody else, to do the intake and send the cases on, that we at least have a record of the phenomenal 4-decade history of what Mr. Foster has accomplished in and for this community. It's you know, I mean, that's why the man was elected to the African American Hall of Fame in Iowa. And so I think I guess I would like to see us as a commission give Director Foster his due for all the years. I mean, he's taken a lot of heat and had to suffer a lot of disparaging comments in what has transpired over the past 2 or 3 months, and I don't think that's very well deserved at all. And I think his accomplishments need to be acknowledged. So that's why I've asked him to please, for the historical record at least, to give us an accounting of some of the highlights of what has happened during those 40 years. And so we have a narrative, and maybe we can get our good friend at the Blue Gazette to do a retrospective on the history of the Human Rights Commission as it has evolved through the years. And now that we're at this fork in the road and heading in a new direction, that we at least have a historical. Mr. Skipper here has been pretty good on some other historical tomes he has written about the history of caucuses in Iowa and that sort of thing. So maybe we can get some coverage on that so the community kind of knows what this man as an asset to the community has done and accomplished.
Well, in response to that, as we talked about earlier, I've never been one to pat myself on the back. I get involved in things because I have a passion for whatever I'm involved in. And to me, I mean, in this brain, it's tooting my own horn. And, you know, I don't have any problem in you know, because we talked about you and I getting together and writing some of the stuff down. I don't have any problem giving the information, but I really don't want it to be used as a tribute. I think my accomplishments are what they are, and people can't recognize that. Then I have no problem with their not being able to recognize it. That's just people are people, and you know, all warts and all. That's what happens. So.
Yeah, we get that on
I'd like to comment real quickly too on the HUD EOC funding. I talked to HUD. I've got EOC has got a questionnaire out in DC right now on EOC money. HUD has said what we need to do is draft up a withdrawal, because in that context, if this commission springs back at some point in the future, they can reapply for FAP certification, and they can start receiving funds again. So that's what I'm going to do. The other alternative, if you don't do that, is that they will come in and do an evaluation, and if they